Welcome back to Triton Squadron. My name is Liam, and I am returning as your host for this episode, as we do not have our current hosts with us today, but we do have my fellow Jedi Master Miguel and former Jedi Master Shane. Hello there, guys.
Hello, nice to be here.
General Kenobi.
Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. This episode is being recorded during the SAG-AFTRA strike. Star Wars would not be possible without the incredible hard work and talent of all of its actors. And also, shout out to the WGA for holding out for 146 days. They've reached a tentative agreement with the AMPTP, and they just have to vote to ratify it. But as of now, the WGA strike is officially ended, but SAG-AFTRA is still going strong. So hopefully they will reach an agreement soon. And with that out of the way, we can get into the episode. Today's episode will be about cosplay. So would one of you two like to start off by talking about how you got into cosplay initially?
Okay, I can go first. Well, I've always really liked dressing up for like Halloween. I remember I used to be obsessed with Dash from The Incredibles. Like I would have my stylist gel my hair with like a pigmented color so it looks blonde and then dress up as Dash for like my birthday. And I've just always liked dressing up. I think my first con was when I was maybe 14, 12 to 14. I went to this very local convention called NerdCon in Escondido, and I dressed up as the 10th Doctor. It was pretty cool because I got to meet a lot of Doctor Who cosplayers who like have their own little group and their own convention in San Diego. So I got to meet them, and I ended up winning the costume contest, like the kids' costume contest. Um, and ever since then, cosplay has become an obsession. Any character that I like, I'm like, I want to dress up as them. And yeah, it's just been a roller coaster since then.
Yeah. So I guess of the people on this current episode, I'm the newest into the cosplay realm. As cosplay the term, but I too love dressing up for Halloween. And Shane's a little extra, so his Halloween costumes were also a little bit extra. And when I look back at some of those, I'm like, wow, I could actually wear some of those to a con and look convincingly like I was doing a cosplay. Because some of the, like I did one where I was, no judgment, I was Mork from Mork and Mindy, the like old science fiction show starring Robin Williams as an alien who like ends up in a small town in Colorado after traveling there in his egg pod. Yeah, old sci-fi was weird. And I look at those photos and I'm like, wow, that's a really good Halloween costume. Um, I started proper cosplaying, like calling it cosplay and wearing it for more than just Halloween. Um, Really, only a few years ago is the first time I actually went out to a con and cosplay. That was my first like actually trying out cosplay experience, and I did it at San Diego Comic Con, which don't recommend. You should not have your first time be at San Diego Comic Con. That's a rough one.
As a
I was
Comic-Con enjoyer, I agree. It should not be the first one.
No, absolutely not. But I'm also like really bad at social media, and that's where I would normally recommend that you start is post a picture on Instagram or something. But of course, I'm bad at that, so do as I say, not as I do. Um, I did that, and then I started doing fight choreography. That was my big thing. I think we all who have listened to this podcast know I'm a little bit unhealthily obsessed with fight choreography at this point. So I got into it through that. I joined one of the Lucasfilm groups this past year to do more fight choreography. Um, Boilerplate disclaimer: I don't speak for them, but yeah, I mean that's kind of how I got into it. My last con was the one that I would consider my first actually giving a crap con, where I actually tried, and that was Comic Con again. Because again, I don't do things the way you're supposed to. And for that, I was I think a generic Sith. I did a Bound one day, and then I did Ken the other day. Ken was great. So that's my long diluted story.
I got into it when I was 15, I think. I was in middle school, and my first con was WonderCon in Anaheim. And like Halloween had always been my favorite holiday because of dressing up. Like my favorite Halloween costume I ever had was when I was Ahsoka when I was 8 years old, and my dad bought just a generic Jedi robe to wear while he took me trick or treating, and and then I met a bunch of friends in middle school who like had been into cosplay already, and they told me about WonderCon, so I went with one of my friends at the time, and my first cosplay was CL Phantom Hive from Black Butler. And it was a pretty good cosplay. I'm not really into that show anymore, but that cosplay was really good for a first time. And ever since going to that con, like it's been an obsession. That con was super, super fun. I still try to go to WonderCon every year, even though it has unfortunately gotten more expensive. I've gone to Comic-Con every year since. My dad, it was actually the one who took us to WonderCon, and after experiencing that, he was the one who like really wanted to go to Comic-Con. He won't admit that, but but here I am outing him on this podcast. But yeah, I've fortunately been able to get into Comic-Con every year, not to flex, but that has become my favorite con. I love cosplaying every day. There hasn't been a day at a con that I haven't cosplayed. I won't like go to a con without one. And it was actually something that was really jarring about my first con too, is I didn't realize people like asked other cosplayers to take pictures of each other. And so someone came up to me and my friend and asked to take a picture of us, and I was like, we said yeah, because like it wasn't a big deal, but like it wasn't something we were expecting. So like getting used to the con vibe was also something that we had to do. But now like totally not a big deal. Like I make some of my cosplays with the intention of like hoping that people will take pictures of it because it's something that I'm proud of and I want people to like it. But yeah, that's my experience of being initiated into the cosplay realm.
Yeah, I wish I could say I've had that experience. I have not, and instead I got the other 180 end of cosplay as my first, I guess, initiation in the cosplay world, where some people act in character the whole time they're at a con.
Yeah.
That was my first experience.
I've had
My
people come up to me and try to role play and cosplay, and like I do appreciate it to an extent, but like I'm really bad at it. I play D&D, and like one of the things that I can't do really well is role play, which is like the essential part of D&D. So there's also that.
Yeah, no, for me it was at this last Comic-Con. Liam, I think you heard about this.
Yes.
Yeah, I bumped into a Deadpool who decided to start hitting on me in character. It was very fun when I was Ken. But I did not know what to do because I was not aware that was a part of the cosplay world until that happened. So, oh yeah, it was fun. I can flex on the San Diego Comic Con world too if you want, because I don't have to worry about getting into San Diego Comic Con because
That's
I get
right.
in
Yeah.
for free.
Wow, you guys are certainly fortunate. I've tried every year and I only got in the first time I went, and haven't been able to get in since.
Miguel, you got a Sergeant Creel. Just apply to the 501st.
I've got a stormtrooper armor. I could just apply to the first.
Yeah, exactly. Offer to man the booth, and you'll get what you need.
Yeah, got to do that.
So what has been your guys' let's do favorite things and least favorite things about your cosplay experience so far?
Shane, you want to take it away first? I think you
I was
have
gonna
some
defer to you.
opinions.
Oh no. Okay, we're starting unhinged. Great. So yeah. Favorite things. I love. There are some cosplays in this world that are basically like space comfort core, and I'm into that. Cause man, there's nothing quite like if you like go to a con and you're wearing like I've worn generic Sith, generic Jedi, and you get just the right material. It's not that like kind of sad $5 Amazon robe, but it's like kind of okay. The Galaxy's Edge robes are actually okay for this as well. That's just comfortable. Like you're walking around feeling like you're in a bathrobe. Like it's great. Everyone else is sweating. They hate their existence, especially all the people in bodysuits and armor, and you're sitting there so comfortable, just ready to go. I one of the ones on my list I think is probably going to be Fat Thor at some point, just because that is the most comfortable outfit I've ever seen in my life. Least favorite things. Oh boy. So there's this problem that I see when you want to cosplay and you're a masculine, male identifying, male presenting person, which is if you want to go find materials, pretty much none of it's gonna be cut for your body. And I know it's like probably gonna get like the pushback of like, oh, boohoo, cry me a river. But yes, please cry me a river. I want to buy shirts at Hot Topic that are from franchises that will make my cosplay so much easier, because then I don't have to go and make the damn thing myself. But no, it is not cut in a men's cut, and like that works for some things. Like I when I do like Star Wars outfits, you just got to go with women's boots. That's just a thing. You just kind of have to. They don't make those boots for men without them being astronomically priced. And I'm not trying to send my wallet to a galaxy far, far away. Um, so with other clothing items, though, depending on how you're built, that can be incredibly uncomfortable incredibly quickly. Like wearing, if I have a cosplay and I'm wearing like it has something that needs like a button down, and the only offering is a women's blouse, I will very, very seriously consider just either making it myself or buying it off of specialty place, because that is just not cut for me. I got shoulders, they don't line up. It's roomy in weird places and tight where it's not supposed to be. It doesn't fit right. And so when you are going to buy costume like pieces, like for your cosplay, like you want the shirt, you want the necklace, you want the, jeans, you want whatever. If say one of the fabric items is cut for a different kind of body than yours, it becomes a real problem. And I know this is something that like plus size community have talked about and trying to get rid of like fat shaming and try to be more body positive. And there's been some progress there, because I know there are some people now making, like, if you look at like I'm gonna call out a brand. I'm gonna call out a brand. Hot Topic. What the hell? No, but they'll make plus size stuff now for some of their like costume inspired pieces, which is great to see. But can I get one that allows for people with shoulders, please? Because it is so uncomfortable when you've got the shoulder seam for a shirt. This is so nerdy and so technical, but I don't care. When you got the shoulder seam and it's like halfway across your neck because it's made for someone who's like half your size, it's just not great. And at that point, if you have to do so much alterations to the piece in order to make it fit, you got to debate whether it's even worth doing that, or just finding something somewhere else, or making something, or just not even doing that cosplay. Because it's such a pain. So that's my least favorite thing is please, like, stop making menswear in general just t-shirts, jeans, and a hoodie. Not even multiple hoodies, a hoodie, right? Like some of us want to do more with our fashion. We'll get to it later when we talk about the kinds of cosplay we do, but like I don't just do like cosplay. I like doing bounding as well. Not as much Disney, but other bounding as well. And like it is such a pain to find stuff. So that's my, I'm being very polite today. That's my rant on why Hot Topic needs to fix their stuff, fix all their stuff. Because I will buy out the entire damn store if you fix it. Please and thank you. What, you think that men don't want to wear outfits inspired by the Vampire List stat? Oh no, yes we do. Please make that for us.
I totally
Absolutely real,
agree.
Shane. Thank you.
Yeah. I have something
Uh,
similar too with that. When you buy cosplays, like just online, whether it's like Easy Cosplay or Cosguy or stuff, like there are some pieces that are really nice, but then the rest of it is just trash. Like
yeah.
I actually just bought a costume of this character that's from a video game I played, Gecko from Valorant. And I bought this one because the cardigan is like exactly what I was looking for. I could not find any other place that sold a cardigan that was actually like knitted. They were all just like prints. But everything else is just so cheap and so poor that I'm just gonna have to replace and remake everything. Like to an extent, yeah, that's good because like at least I'm making my parts of the costume to make it really mine. But at the same time, like I spent all this money just to not be able to use most of it. So yeah, that's not one of my favorite things for sure.
Given that big spirit Halloween vibes off of those
Yeah,
pieces.
exactly. Exactly. But something I really like about cosplay is just the communities we make with it, like with cons and stuff. Through social media, we really connect with other people. Overall, it's just a great experience connecting with things that we love to do, things that we love to enjoy, and talking to other people like we're doing now about our experiences. It really connects other people. But with that connection also comes another negative of some people being toxic or gatekeepy. Like, oh, you bought your costume? You're not a real cosplayer.
Hate people like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I
Exactly.
started. I've only been recently making my cosplays. In fact, like the fan film costumes are like some of the first like full on costumes I've ever made. I've made like one or two of my own cosplays before doing the film, and then I like made all of those costumes with the minimal experience that I had.
I find it gets worse too the more people ask for like accuracy.
Yeah.
Like when they're like, no, 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 that's not exactly right. And it's like, guys, I don't care if Superman wasn't originally black. I don't care if a woman is cosplaying as Batman, not as Batwoman, as Batman. I don't care. I'm just happy they're having fun. And honestly, their outfit looks better than mine. So I
Yeah.
don't know why people have such a it's inane at times. Like you see what people are like complaining about, and it's like I guess in a way, I'm sorry, I completely overtook you, Miguel, but
No,
do
go ahead. This is what
I
it is. It's a conversation.
I do wanna like bring in one of the things you mentioned though about communities. It also seems to have weirdly driven new micro communities because if you think about it, who do all the cross players hang out with? Other cross players. Why? Because who the hell wants to deal with somebody who wants to be accurate? Nobody. They just want to have fun, right? Who do all the crossover people hang out with? They all hang out with other crossover people. There's why it seems like that's why there are Facebook groups and other social media groups specifically for like Mandalorian cosplays, like who do crossover cosplays. Like all those Disney Mando crossovers, like they all hang out together. Like they
I
do their
love
own
those.
thing. Oh, I love them so much too. I would love to do that. I would love to
Same.
like, right? We should make like a Disney villains Mando crossover.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. But like, I think that in a way, just tying it back to Miguel and then handing it over to Miguel because it's so rude of me to talk over you. I'm so sorry. Uh, is that at least the nice thing about it is those people suck, but they help create communities for people who don't suck because we know exactly who we don't want to deal with.
I think covered up pretty much all what I was gonna say.
So my favorite thing and my least favorite thing are actually one and the same, and it's going to cons. I do like going to cons in cosplay. I love the act of getting up in the morning and dressing up in my cosplay and looking at it in the mirror and be like, we're slaying, and then going to the con and meeting up with my friends. But then about halfway through the day, I start thinking, wow, I really don't want to be here. I hate this and I'm never doing it again. And then a month later, here I am doing it again. But putting on the cosplay and the first like hour or so of wearing it is always the best because like it hasn't gotten uncomfortable yet. I'm not sweating off my makeup yet. But then my least favorite part of it is getting to the point where it starts to get uncomfortable and I want to take it off and I still have 5 hours of the con to get through because I have things planned. Like maybe I have a photo shoot or I have panels I want to go to, or like there's after parties at these cons and I've gone to some of those with my friends and like I don't have time to go home and change out of my cosplay, so I go to those in cosplay, which is like totally normal to do. It's just really uncomfortable. But it's it is a constant battle between wanting to continue this lifestyle and and having to be able to fund it and also having the motivation to keep doing it. But that's my 2 cents on that.
That's way too real. My biggest problem with that is always one, the morning part. Nobody likes the morning, and two, like I don't know. You're lucky in that you're probably past the point of like new cosplayers, but like for me, because this is so foreign to me, I need to get a damn coaster. Hold on. For me, because this is so foreign to me, like I still get those like pre-con jitters where it's like, oh god, like is this cosplay? I think it slays, but is anyone else gonna think it slays? Is this gonna be sad and flop, or is it gonna be great? I don't know. And like, there's still that like, I don't know. There's kind of that insecurity. I don't know if this is something y'all experienced, but there's still that like insecurity for me where it's like dressing up was not exactly something that was encouraged in my community until I joined theater, and then it was normal. Unless it was nerd related, then it was not normal. But like the idea of like actually putting that much effort into your appearance to dress up, like I still get nervous. I went to a concert recently where I went all out and I kind of bounded one of the outfits that the lead singer wore. Liam, it was a Ghost concert.
Yeah.
That was I don't know if you saw the pictures on Insta. It was the one where I did his red sequin jacket,
Mm.
and I did a whole ass outfit that one of my friends described as like vampire bounding, which is the best phrase I've ever heard in my life. But like you get those like jitters where it's like, I don't know if this is gonna suck. I don't know if it's gonna be lame. I don't know if I'm gonna feel lame in it, right? And then you go and it's great and it's fine and you have a blast. But like you wake up in the morning and you're like, I don't know if this is gonna be good. Like I could look like a complete buffoon. Probably doesn't help that I was wearing sequins at that one, and then I was wearing like the most pink I've ever had on at one point in my life when I wore Ken. And again, these are not things that when you are masculine, male presenting, like cisgendered man, that you are encouraged to wear on the daily, which is a shame because I absolutely slay pink. But yeah, I don't know. It's got that. I don't know if y'all are past it, but like those pre-con jitters, where it's like, I'm wearing this thing. I don't know if it sucks. I still get those every time.
I still get it from time to time, not so much anymore. Like if I haven't been to a con in a while, I'll get it. But then like I've just mastered the art of like forcing that feeling down because I know like every time I go to a con, it ends up being fine. Like you said, you get to the event and like everyone there who's like-minded and there for the same event like thinks it's cool and it like everything it's all good. But I do get that for events that aren't cons. Like if I had dressed up for a concert, which I have done before, like it's still like at concerts most people aren't going to be dressed up. There are going to be people, like every concert I've gone to, there is someone like in some outrageous outfit, and like I always admire them so much because it looks really good, and B, I wish I could do that. But like at this point for me as a cosplayer, going to cons has been like totally fine. And also something that helps too is to cosplay like super obscure characters. Like I cosplayed Jay from season 2 of Visions, or episode 2, not season 2, episode 2 of Visions, Tatooine Rhapsody. And like I had 2 people at that con. This was at Comic-Con 2022. I had 2 people recognize that character. And so like cosplaying obscure characters that not a lot of people recognize, it like, at least for me, it helped with the fact that like you said, if people don't think that maybe it's as great as you think it is, because I put on that cosplay, I made the guitar for that cosplay, and I looked at it, I was like, this slays, this is amazing. And I mean, because it was such an obscure character, I knew going into it not a lot of people would recognize it, but it's still just getting used to that feeling of like, oh, people don't recognize this cosplay, but I still know that it's a good cosplay. So it just takes time and experience, but like as you start cosplaying more and going to more cons, like it just starts to be like feel like a normal thing to do. Like this past Comic-Con, like I just felt like I was doing a normal everyday thing, even though I was dressing up as an anime character and going to a convention for nerds and doing nerd things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this also this allows us to jump to one of our questions that we thought of for this episode, which is just like planned cosplays that you have, because like I love obscure characters, and the more I like get exposed to the cosplay world, the more I want to do obscure characters that probably nobody remembers or have heard of. On my list, it's not Star Wars, but on my list is 1977's Battlestar Galactica, which is something that like half of the world has forgotten. If you mention Battlestar, they go, "Oh, the one with the hot like Cylon," and you go, "No, the one with the hot colonials. Slightly different. None of the Cylons were hot in the original." So unless you're really into robots, in which case you do you.
Yeah, Shane, that's your opinion.
Yeah, I'm not gonna kink shame any robot lovers here. You got furries, you got scalies. I guess we got wiries now too.
Is that the term for it?
I don't know. I just made some shit up. I'm here to piss off every community that exists on the internet and multiple companies. Oh, you think that you're out of the line of fire, Hot Topic? No, we'll be back for you later. But, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. So like, what is your like obscure cosplays you want to do? I'd say obviously because we're a Star Wars podcast, focus on the Star Wars ones. But if you have a really obscure, not Star Wars one that's really fun, just one, that could also be a good thing to mention, especially if it is very obscure. Because then, hey, who knows? Maybe somebody out there listening to this podcast really just needs that encouragement to hear that other people are interested in doing obscure characters from some franchise that time forgot. Who knows?
I have a list of a bunch of Star Wars ones that I have planned, but one of them is pretty obscure. It's Guti from that one episode of Rebels where Mart was introduced. It's one of my least favorite episodes of Rebels, but I love Guti's design, so I really want to like cosplay her and do the makeup. Um, I don't know, I can't remember what her species is called, but like she's like this like neon pink and has like purple spots and stuff and like this kind of mohawk thing, but it's like spikes that grow out of her head. I don't know what she's called, but like she only shows up in that one episode and like there's no other reason for me to cosplay her other than I think she looks cool. So that's my obscure Star Wars one that I have planned.
Yeah, for me, I have so many obscure ones. Like I just see a nice character in the background, and I'm like, I want to cosplay them.
Yes,
Like
background character.
exactly.
The amount of
Uh,
background Twi'leks from
yeah.
the Nigerian arc of Clone Wars that I wanted to cosplay, like they don't have names, they don't do anything except almost die. So
Oh, like the one from Book of Boba Fett. I think like it's implied that they're trans.
oh yes,
Yeah.
the trans dude, I
Yes.
love him so much. I want to
Yes.
talk to him
That
too.
one's so cool. It would be cool to do that one if I
Yeah.
had the body for it. But the one from that I really want to do from Star Wars is I can't remember what episode, but it was from season 3 of The Mandalorian. It's the stormtroopers with really elegant like robes on top of them. They were in the background of the episode with Jack Black and Lizzo. I don't like I asked people like if they recognize them and like no one seemed to remember them, but I'm like they were all I could think about. Like it would be so easy for me just to upgrade the stormtrooper armor to do that, but God,
I
I
was
want to do
gonna
it so
say that
badly. They look so cool.
I was gonna say that I don't remember them, but then you mentioned which episode it was, and I'm gonna be so honest, I was not sober while watching that episode.
Valid, valid.
I only really
I-
remember like how much of a fever dream it was. I don't remember anything specifically about it, but I will watch it again because I want to know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, they were so cool. It was like royal stormtroopers. And then another one that's not from Star Wars that I really want to do is from the Orville. I don't know. It's like
yes.
kind of yes.
Yes.
Yes. There's so many that I want to do from the Orville. Like I would love to do a Kalon one day. Like they look so cool. But also I really love Mercer's outfit from the wedding scene. Like it's so obscure, but I just love it so much. I would love to do that one.
Can I add an Orville cosplay onto my list?
Yeah.
There's just there's something special about those Admiral jackets.
Yes. Yes.
When's the last time
Absolutely.
you saw a sci-fi military in purple like that? It's just so good. Like I would love to do one of those. Like just the jacket, maybe.
Agreed.
I mean, at least I would wear that jacket casually. I would just go to the grocery store in that jacket. People would be like, "Would you like a bag?" And I'd be like, "Excuse me, I think would you like a bag, Admiral?" Admiral. But yeah, for obscure Star Wars ones, how many problems can I cause? A not racist version of the cook from the
Oh my
holiday
God.
special, the 4-armed cook. I saw somebody do a not racist version of that cosplay once, like online, and I'm like, oh man, that is so good. I gotta do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna explain it to those of you who are listening on this podcast. Instead, I will just give you the honor and pleasure of looking up the cook from the holiday special so that you can see if you can find the scene that they're in, even better. But that's a good one. I feel like the Stormtrooper variant, there's a lot of like niche background. Don't see them very often. Stormtrooper variants that are really neat. The tank driver is a good example of that. The tank driver from Rogue One, he's got a really cool set of armor because it's basically just a a shore trooper with a different helmet, a very cool looking helmet. There's the Carillion stormtrooper cops. They've got a really neat set of armor. The Praetorian guards from Mandalorian, specifically because they're like proto Praetorian guards. They're really neat. And I would love to do one of Zeb's species. Like I would love to do a Jedi in that species. I think that'd be really cool, especially if I can do it in a way that can be actually like I've seen it done a few times, but every time it's done, it's very hard to move in, and it doesn't like you're not able to do choreographed like fights in it. I would love to see if you could take some of the technology that motion capture stunt artists are using and apply that to that species to make it movable, to make it functional. Obviously, you won't be able to do everything. Like you wouldn't be able to do a good front roll in that costume, but at least get it so that you could do basic movements would be very, very cool, in my opinion. Maybe I can make everyone who's in the know weep a little bit and do Cal Kestis Master, just to make everyone die inside a little bit. I think those are all my obscure ones. I guess a spoiler, but Marek, or however you pronounce his name, that's my bae right there. No one fuck with Marek. I love his outfit. I love the like almost knightly helm that he has. The stunt performer who does that movement, oh, so amazing. But like that costume has been on my list since episode 1. And then obviously I have the helmet for it. So at some point I do want to do a guard because let's be honest, they're the best of every world.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
these big helmeted, like aggressive, kind of intimidating, but cool looking dudes. Tall, dark, mysterious. They're every romance novel's protagonist except with a helmet. So I would love to do a temple guard. I think a rebel guard would be nice because they move a lot easier, and I'm really into comfort. The Clone Wars guards, they overheat like no one's business. That's so much fabric. But a guard would also be really cool. And that's the thing where it's like, I'd say what 60-70% of Star Wars fans would recognize it. So it's not super obscure, but it's not like
It's
Luke
not
Skywalker.
obscure, but it's one of those cosplays where if like Star Wars fans who see people cosplaying them get really excited about it. Because not a lot of people do it. Like every time I see a Temple Guard cosplayer at a con, I'm always like, oh my god, they actually cosplayed a Temple Guard because I love the guards so much.
Yeah, and that's kind of the realm that I want to move into. I mean, my cosplays that I've done so far have kind of been purpose built. They've all gotten me from point A to point B. Either I wanted to have something for a con where I wanted to try cosplaying, dip the toes in. That was what Ken was, or like I needed it for a Lucasfilm group. That's what the Sith, like generic Sith, is. So like one of those like really cool, not very commonly done, like really unique, hard to do cosplays, I think would be up there. Also, one of here's an obscure one. One of the Imperial Super Commando Mandos from Mando season 3.
Oh
They
yeah,
have a really unique armor. I think that would be very cool.
I do. This Star Wars cosplay I want to do is I wouldn't necessarily call it obscure, but it's niche enough that, like I said, people who like this character will be very excited to see a cosplay of it. Eli Vanso from the Thrawn trilogy, because there's I haven't seen very many cosplays of him. I really want to cosplay him because I love him so much. And the the people who have read the Thrawn trilogy, like I haven't met someone who doesn't like Eli, or like I haven't met someone who is a Thrawn enjoyer who knows about Eli that isn't very excited when I bring up the fact that I know who Eli is. So just a quote unquote niche character that I enjoy that I would love to cosplay.
Would you draw from like visual adaptations we have of him? Because I think he's in some of the comics, or would
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like
no,
go for
I would be drawing
literary?
from the comic drawing of him.
I'm very curious about like what the world of literary cosplay could look like, because I feel like that could be a really unique world where you make things your own because it's
That's
interpretation based.
interesting that you bring that up because I'm actually working on a cosplay from a book called Heartless by Marissa Mayer, which is a backstory for the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. And the character I want to cosplay is Jest, who is he's the court jester. I think there was like this motif. I haven't read the book in a while. There was this motif of the four horsemen, and he was like representative of one of them. And um, there are actually visual representations of him because the author has commissioned like art pieces for a lot of her novels, and so there's like official art of Jest. There's also a musical that was made just like for fun by a high school in Utah, and they designed a costume, and that's what I'm basing my Jest cosplay off of, is low quality screenshots from their YouTube recording of the musical. So literary cosplay is completely possible, and I am in fact doing it.
That's reassuring because I mean, first off, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. That there's a cosplay being made that's based off of a shitty screenshot of a high school's adaptation musical of a book that is itself an adaptation of a Disney film that is itself an adaptation of yet another book.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to get to this character.
Like an ogre. But so yeah, I mean that's reassuring because like I've cracked jokes about it, but I actually would love to do like a Lestat de Lioncourt cosplay because I mean he's just a really interesting like character, the Brat Prince. Also like I'll out myself as a masculine, straight, whatever the fuck man who reads romance novels. Lore Olympus is on my list.
I knew you were gonna say that.
It's on my list. It's one of the few panels that I really tried to get into in Comic-Con, and I succeeded because I was able to snag a seat next to somebody who thought they could put their bag down, and that would prevent me from getting a seat. No, that doesn't work. Don't do that, please, listener. Don't do that, please. It will not work. I will still sit next to you. I will be dressed like Ken. You will not know what to say. And I'm just there to see
Like
the
that,
panel.
I don't know what to say.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting world, like comics and like literature, because if you think about it, none of those are either drawn or written to proportion usually. Like it's usually just whatever pops into the author's mind or the artist, just kind of whatever fits within their art style. So it's a thing where there's a lot of interpretation you can do with the costume that you're making and the cosplay you are creating, because you're either working off entirely text-based like descriptions of the characters, which can be quite lengthy depending on the character if they're very vain, or it can be quite sparse. And if it's a comic book, you have to take something that is not designed to look like real fabric or to even look like it fits on a normal human body and make it work. You're essentially doing what all of these superhero films had to do in taking a character and adapting it for the real world. And in that sense, there's a lot of creative freedom you can get as an artist working on like your craft within that world that makes it really interesting.
Oh, I actually wanted to go back to what you were talking about, the guards, because I actually been wanting to make a guard costume, but actually the Clone Wars one. And what cemented it was seeing the mask in Andor. Like, as soon as I saw that, like I looked it up and I ended up buying an STL of that mask from Andor, and I just haven't gotten around to printing it. And then like seeing it again in like the fan film, I'm like, okay, now I definitely need to do a guard. But yeah, I feel like for me the Clone Wars one is too iconic for not do. But it would be cool to like I have like the Clone Wars one, and then you would have the Rebels one. Like,
oh yeah, we definitely would have to go to a con and be like,
yeah,
do the whole
I
circuit.
also want to do a Clone Wars one for myself. I
Yeah.
really wish I could have made the Clone Wars one for the fan film, but like you said, the Rebels one is a lot easier. The design is a lot simpler.
Oh yeah. Dude, the Clone Wars one, like it's on my list, but it's much lower specifically because it is so much fabric and so much work, and nothing is a standard item. Like, with my Sith costume, like with my Sith outfit, there are a few pieces that are just off the shelf items. Like, spoiler alert, I'm just wearing basic slacks and a turtleneck as my base layer, because that's what most of the characters fucking wore in the original and the prequel trilogies. They just wore slacks and a turtleneck or something underneath it. That's Obi-Wan's whole look, as he's wearing turtlenecks this entire time. But something like Clone Wars Guard, every single piece of that costume is bespoke. Like you have to make it on your own, because there is nothing like you can get kind of close with like I don't know like a Cosplay or something. Like they'll get close, but like it'll still not be exactly right, and the fabric will probably be a light, cheaper fabric, so it won't lay right. So in order to get that to lay right, you got to rip it open and put in liners and the whole. It's obnoxious. So, but it's an amazing costume. Like it is one of the cool. I would say it's one of the coolest looking costumes we've gotten out of the Jedi Order. Period. It's I think number 2 on my coolest costumes list from the Jedi Order.
Speaking of complicated and difficult cosplays, Miguel, you've made some armored Star Wars cosplays. You want to talk about the process of making those? Like you've made the Mandalorian one. I'm not much of an armorer, so it's something
Yeah.
seen as like, I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to achieve that.
His costumes look really good too for people who are listening in. Like they are amazing looking. So throw that out there. Like they look really damn good.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Actually, going back to what we were talking about earlier about like insecurities going to cons, I, despite having a lot of experience making costumes, still experience it to this day. I don't think I'll ever get over it. Every time I dress up, like I know Liam was saying, after you have experience with some cons, like it gets over, but you still experience it with other things. I definitely experience it with cons too, and other things like, for example, the Mandalorian costume. As I was putting it together, I was rushing because I needed to get it done by May the 3rd. And so a lot of elements of it I was not happy with, and I was like, everyone is going to be able to see this. Like, this is totally not screen accurate, or like I messed up the paint right here. It's so obvious. I hate it so much. I wish I had a whole month to redo it all over again from scratch. Like that, just a lot of insecurities, but like stepping out and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Everyone loved it. I was like, it helped for that.
And I remember
For
you even like mentioned some of the imperfections that you saw in your costume, and I couldn't even see them after you mentioned them. Like that's just how good it was. So
Yeah, I never even noticed them at all until they were pointed out, and even then I'm like, I look at costumes a lot. I can barely see anything, man. It looks great.
thank you. I really appreciate that. Um, like for experiences, I typically just worked with fabrics. So like I sewed costumes together. I did when I first went to Comic Con, I was Castiel from Supernatural. I got a lot of compliments and a lot of people taking photos with me. It was really fun seeing all the Supernatural cosplayers just engaging with me.
I
Uh,
did Crowley once for Halloween, and I went all out for that one. So that's
nice.
yeah.
But yeah, so I've only really worked with fabrics. My first real attempt at armor was the Stormtrooper. That I bought a kit. Luckily, I found it on eBay, so it was a lot cheaper than it normally is. And I spent 2 years just keeping it in storage because I was like, this is a lot to tackle. I don't know if I could do it. But eventually, one day, I was like, all right, time to buckle down. And throughout the summer, I was just cutting it up, putting it together. And I was like, I don't have a lot of experience in assembling armor, so I know I'm going to make mistakes. And even still today, I see a lot of mistakes with that armor. And I'm like, I wish I had another set so I could redo it all over again. But it's all a learning experience. I learned a lot from assembling that armor, which helped me making the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was a greater step beyond that because I had to work with all sorts of different materials, from leather to fabrics to 3D printed pieces to different paints and clear coats, automotive clear coats that were much more difficult to work with. But again, it was a learning process, and I learned so much from the build. And like you said, even though the imperfections were visible, they were visible to me, but I learned from them. And honestly, I'm kind of happy that they happened because they were a learning experience that I was able to grow from. So yeah, it was a difficult project, but it was so rewarding.
that's that's one of my I know I said my favorite thing and least favorite thing was cons, but like also one of my favorite things about cosplay is learning how to do things and learning new skills. And I had a professor in a VFX editing course once who said that the way to learn is just to um like you just pick a project that you want to do and teach yourself how to do that specific project, and then you will gain the skills from doing that you can apply later. And I think that applies to cosplay, where if like there's a specific cosplay you want to try to build, you just learn how to do the specific things you need to do for that cosplay. You build it, you make mistakes, you try again, and you figure it out, and then you have those skills. So if you want to do the same thing again, or if you want to apply it to a different cosplay, then you have the stuff that you've learned, and maybe you'll learn something new with a newer project. So it's always good to try new things in cosplay. And I've had a lot of people like tell me like it's such a deterrent, like, oh, I don't know how to do armor, I don't know how to sew, or I don't know how to do these things. And like the first step is just to like you want to make this specific, you want to make a Mandalorian cosplay, you just have to just learn how to do the armor for that specific cosplay, and then you have the skills and you can keep moving forward.
It's all a leap of faith. That's
Exactly.
all it is.
I think the biggest thing too is remembering that like in most of these things, the biggest disqualifier in cosplay and in really anything that you're making on your own is you. You're more likely to self-disqualify than have any other thing come up where you just say, I can't do this. This is not something I could do. Like, I don't have the skill for this. There's no way, right? Those are all things that you put on yourself to stop yourself from just leaping in and trying. And you might find that, like, for me, I agree with everything that was said. It's very refreshing to me to like try and learn something for something I'm working on, because like this is not a way of thinking that our education system right now promotes. You going out trying stuff and seeing what works. Usually there's a lot of theory and background that you're supposed to learn, whereas with things that are based off of physical material, cosplay, armor, props, all these things, like they're things that, sure, you can go and learn all the theory on the face of the earth, but can you turn a block of foam into a block of wood without trying it 20 times? Probably not. And so the nice thing with a lot of these cosplays is it teaches you things on the fly, and you make mistakes, and there's a lot of trial and error and a lot of iteration, and it teaches you a lot of project skills that you don't learn otherwise, no matter what kind of cosplay you're doing, by the way. Because like Liam and Miguel have both manufactured cosplays. 90% of my cosplay is off the shelf. And what I learned from that is I learned alteration, because alteration is a huge part of that. Most things off the shelf. As I mentioned earlier with Hot Topic, I will find you executives at Hot Topic. You started something and it's not ending. But so like you alter things in order for them to work with you, right? But at the same time too, like it seems like the stupidest skill now that I vocalize it, but just learning non-standard fashion in and of itself, like having to look things up and learn the difference between a cravat and an ascot, because my character wears one but not the other, or learning different cuts of different suits, learning different historical trends, learning the names of different robes. Like if you want to match a certain vibe, learning what exists in that vibe. I'm looking at some things that are like set historically in like old Hollywood as like bounding things that I want to do, because I have some friends that want to do like murder mystery and cocktail night and all that, and we're thinking old Hollywood. And old Hollywood is this 20s, 30s, and sometimes 40s, but mostly 20s and 30s bounding. So like looking up like what are the different kinds of smoking jacket? When did they emerge? How are they worn? How are they used? Like that is in and of itself another skill. And like if you think that, oh, I'm not as good of a cosplayer because I bought my cosplay, I bought the pieces, I didn't hand sew them. Hollywood, the place this all comes from, pays people a lot of money to know the difference between a skinny and a normal necktie, to know the difference between different kinds of knots, when they historically were used, and who would wear them, right? Different kinds of fabric, what makes something white tie versus black tie. Like these are all things that, like, if you're cosplaying characters that are more true to the real world, like you have to learn that they're real skills. Like they're actual things that you could use. And in the Hollywood world where they costume people, people pay good money for a dude who can be like, yeah, I can give you a white tie gala from 1910. Easy. No problem. Like that kind of thing. That's the person you pay big bucks for, because you're like, oh yeah, I could throw them from Bridgerton to The Great Gatsby to something set in 1990, the time when fashion died. You could do all of that. Although I should say that that's when fashion died. 2000s was like stabbing a dead corpse because you thought it was a vampire. But so like those are all skills too, and I think it's really refreshing when you learn these skills, because it kind of it helps you create a knowledge base that you can apply, like as you all mentioned, elsewhere. I did theater. You better bet your ass I pulled out these skills that I learned, like bounding characters, because I bounded well before I was doing proper cosplay. Bounding characters from historical eras. I put those skills to use on opening and closing. I put them when we had special gala events that we had to bring our own attire for. I use them in auditions. I use them in filming. Like they're things that they come and they help you in your day to day, that you might not necessarily think is a skill, but believe me, 90% of America cannot sew a patch on a jacket. So you knowing how to do it is impressive. Also, none of you see it, but I am literally just watching Liam die on my screen, and it's very entertaining.
Listen, I can't help it if you say something funny.
We need to get you a better mic so it's not just silence. Like we're not just inserting like a crappy Big Bang Theory laugh track.
Listeners, I really wish you could see my reactions.
Someday we'll videotape these.
Someday, yeah. Let's move on to talking about the official Lucasfilm groups, because I'm not. Does any other fandom like have these official cosplay groups, or is that just Lucasfilm? I'm not entirely sure.
There's a few. They're just not as pissy as Lucasfilm groups are. So there's to give you. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I'm in one of the Lucasfilm groups. I do not speak for that group. I have thoughts on how they do costumes, but not all bad. There's some absolutely amazing things. I have more opportunity in the Lucasfilm group than I've ever gotten in my day-to-day life, and you get to do some really amazing things. You get to help people, which is really nice because they're all volunteer groups that are charity-based. So you get to do cool things, you get to have cool opportunities, and you get to help people, which is like the holy trifecta of please. That sounds awesome. But there are a few franchises that have some. I don't know if they're an official cosplay group, but I know that there's the Brown Coats for Firefly. There is Starfleet for Star Trek, and you can do different eras, and they are organized into like different ships, and they have different classes of ship based on how many people. Battlestar Galactica has one, but it is struggling. So if you like original Battlestar, please consider making a cosplay and joining that group, because it's hard to manage a properties like cosplay group that has not had any material at all released for like 50 years. But they're Black Star Squadron. They're on my list of to joins. So there's a few. I think Doctor Who has an official group. Marvel, I think, has an unofficial group. So there's a few groups that mostly franchise films have some sort of group behind them. But Lucasfilm is obviously kind of the big daddy of cosplay groups in terms of official groups, because I don't think anybody has the organization and manpower of the Lucasfilm groups. I think it's kind of unrivaled. I think the relationship with the company helps. But they exist. They're just not as big.
Yeah, I do want to join one of them. I would really very much like to join the Mandalorian Mercs one day, because I do want to make some kind of Mandalorian cosplay, whether it's an original character or I want to do a Sabine cosplay, but with the male style of armor, so a gender bend of her. But yeah, Mando Mercs is the one that I'm looking to join. I've heard things about 501st. I've not to put them down. I've met some of the members and they're great. Their cosplays are great. I've just heard that for some reason them specifically they're very like conservative about who they let in, what's approved and what's not approved. So I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that or have anything to say about
there's a reason why I haven't applied yet. It's because of their standards. Like I'm so insecure. Like they're probably gonna reject me for my outfit. Like, even though I think it looks perfectly screen accurate, but there's so many little things that they nitpick. Like, I've gone through the catalog like 50 times, making sure that my outfit fits them, and I'm still like, I don't know. Like, this little section is kind of crooked. Do you think they're gonna reject me for that? So yeah, they're very particular about their entries,
I
and
think,
we'll see if my Stormtrooper armor makes the cut.
yeah, I think that before I answer this question, because this is the realm that, like, I am normally batshit unhinged. I can't be batshit unhinged about this because I'm in two of them, actually. And so it's a thing where, like, you walk a delicate line of, like, whether you want to criticize something publicly or not. I err on the not because of the people I've met and just how good they've been to me. But I actually do want to open it up to anything else y'all have heard about, like, what the reputation is, what you've heard about them. You don't need to self-censor. Like, don't worry, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna tell George. Like, you don't need to worry about that. But I would love to hear, because, like, the thing about these cosplay groups, right, is they're so big that the perception of what they are is very varied based on who you ask. Do they know somebody in the group? Are they in a group? Do they have encounters with the group? What time period did they get to know them? Because they've evolved significantly over time. So I'm curious, like, for the lay people, and the cosplay community outside of these groups, what have y'all heard? I mean, Miguel, you mentioned the 501st. Have you heard anything about any other groups?
Yeah. Every other ones I've heard mostly positive things, like Mandomarks being very inclusive. I love that. That's why I also want to join them. I just also have to work on my Mando armor. And the Rebel Legion, same thing. Very inclusive, and like their standards aren't as rigorous, because like the Rebels are like, they're not really put together. They kind of have things thrown on and everything. And it makes sense why the 501st is so rigorous, because if you have like a whole army marching down, you want them to look uniform, even though in episode 4 they weren't necessarily uniform, because the building and manufacturing of the Stormtrooper armors were very shoddy. It was very asymmetrical, and if you look at them, you're like, these two don't even look similar, kind of. But overall, I've the 501st is fantastic. Like, in how they visit children's hospitals, their charity organizations, how they like do toy drives and stuff. It's a really great organization that I really want to join. It's just that it's very rigorous with the process, and I'm hoping that my armor is good enough, but we shall see.
That's pretty much what I've heard. Like the only like complaint I've heard about the 501st, and it's the only group I've heard complaints about too, is just how rigorous and conservative their approval process is. But like I've seen them at events before. Like the Ducks hockey team has had Star Wars nights where the 501st will go, and like their characters will be there. I went to a live screening, a live orchestra screening of The Empire Strikes Back, and the 501st was there, and like the members are really cool, and like their costumes are really good, like because they have those standards. But I've heard from people who have tried to get in that they do like nitpicks like very very much, and it like I've heard the word pretentious used to describe how they go about assessing cosplays and stuff. And so aside from them, like I've heard, like the reason I want to join the Mando Merc specifically is because they're like super lenient with what you can put on your costume to get in. Like I've talked to them at cons and like gone up to them and been like, hey, like, you know, in the future, I'd like to make a Mandalorian cosplay and join this group. Like, how do we go about doing that? And the guy like recommended me to the forums and stuff, and just like went through like generally how it works. And he started like using his cosplay as an example, where he like would just point to like he showed me like one of his wrist cuffs or something. He just told me like what components he used, and it's just a bunch of random like bullshit that he put together to make it look like something that a Mandalorian would wear. Because the great thing about the mercs is that they accept original characters as long as you basically just use the approved materials, and it looks like a proper Mandalorian cosplay that is like basically it has to like the design of it technically has to be like the shape of the armor and what pieces you have, that has to be canon. But then like you could be like Sabine and just paint it however the hell you want, and like just use whatever you find to make your pieces, and just make sure that they have multiple approved armor types and stuff. They have multiple approved materials, so it's just I not that it's easy, quote unquote, but I would imagine that it's one of the quote unquote easier groups to get into, which is why I want to join them.
Yeah, I think these are all the same kind of like things I had heard before I joined any of the Lucasfilm groups. Honestly, the two groups I'm in now, I hadn't even heard of, to be fully honest. Before I like reached out and joined them. So I guess slight tangent, little bit of backstory for those who are listening, in case you have not yet heard the like episode where I discussed lightsabers and how I got into it, and a lightsaber event that we had done that was way back. But so I did theater for many years, over a decade. I did 16 years of theater and film. In college, I got into the maker community, where it's a lot of DIY projects. It's a lot of like coming up with an idea and just making it. And while I was building a PVC hilt lightsaber, which that is a thing, in the makerspace, I bumped into a guy who's like, "Hey, I do choreography. You should join my group." Context on that: this was before a lot of the groups had moved into San Diego. We had a 501st Garrison. The Rebel Legion at that time was still a base that covered all of Southern California. It now has its own San Diego base, Scarif base. That's new to this year, but back then it was pretty much all of Southern California was one base because they weren't big enough yet. Mando Mercs existed, and that was the extent of Star Wars in San Diego. And all three groups kind of formed a symbiotic relationship, because the members in one would typically then make their next costume something that gets them into another. So, like the guy who heads our Saber Guild temple, he has approved costumes in every group, because he hopped from group to group to group, and I think he has like over like 50 costumes now that he has approved, because he would just every time he got approved in one group, he would start another one. But so I was in an unofficial group. That group kind of dissolved a bit during COVID. It hasn't met in years. We all still talk, but everyone's life moved on. A few people moved away. I think one dude went to Ukraine during the war to volunteer. So like I found out that one of the official groups had finally formed a temple in San Diego, the Saber Guild. And I did that same thing where I'm like, I don't know if what I would do is good enough. These people, they do lightsabers all the time. I don't know if I'm good enough for this. I don't know if I have the skill. I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if I have the costuming ability. But I took the plunge in my senior year of college to give it a shot. Joined the Saber Guild Temple. They were very, very kind. They helped me out a ton building my costume. My approved costume is a generic Sith. So it's not quite a custom character, but it's like the NPC that you fight in every Star Wars like video game. I'm one of those because it was what the temple needed. I asked them directly. I'm like, what do we need to put on shows? They're like, we have not enough Sith at all. Did that. That Sith was good enough to get me into the Dark Empire, which is the Sith costuming group. They have a spire out here. But before I went through that whole rigmarole, everything I had heard about it was 501st is way like overboard on screen accuracy, to the point that it's an exercise in misery to apply. Mando Mercs is all where all the cool custom things are, where everyone's got a D&D campaign level backstory for their Mandalorian, and they almost everything under the sun. If you make it look Star Warsy and make it look Mandalorian will work. Rebel Legion is just good guys. The end. That was literally the reputation I'd heard, was they are good guys. And I'd say that, like, as a member of the costuming groups, some of that has been reinforced. Some of that has been kind of de-enforced. And I mean, there's like points where you have like things where it's like, I wish this would kind of be a little bit different, and I wish that things would kind of be a little bit more of the same. I will shout out one group that does something particularly well that's not Star Wars, which I mentioned Black Star earlier. Black Star's approval process is probably one of the best approval processes I've heard, because they do Colonial Warriors from the OG Battlestar. That is their bread and butter. Colonials, Colonial Warriors, all of those colonial costumes. They have a 10-foot rule. The idea being, they recognized early on, most cosplayers and most cosplay groups, we care a lot more about screen accuracy than the people who actually make these productions do. Disney does not nearly care as much. Miguel, you mentioned the Stormtroopers in episode 4. Remember, folks, white duct tape is canon. Because that's how they held together the armor. But
Black boots painted white.
Very true, very true. Gaffer's tape, canon. And if you like the Aliens franchise, egg cartons are also canon. But so their whole thought on approval was 10 foot away. If I put a camera 10 feet from you, we made a short film. Do you look like you walked out of Battlestar? Yes? Great. Good. You're in. They don't nitpick nearly as much because it's like 10 feet away. You look like a Colonial Warrior. We'll take it. I think that's one of the best approval processes I've ever heard of, because it gets a lot of people in the door, especially with cosplays that I think that anyone who's tried to do, especially background characters, but really anything from Star Wars 77, like, there is so much stuff they used on set that is not made anymore. Like, they don't manufacture it anymore because it was either something specific to the 70s or it was junk when they got it. Like, a lot of that stuff was cobbled together out of trash. So like Kenobi's lightsaber has a grenade in the handle. Like, they were cobbling it together. I think that one of the biggest struggles we have, which is something that folks mentioned on their least favorite things, is that in the cosplay world, there's this big push to screen accuracy, to the point that people will manufacture replicas of the original product that was made, that was something was constructed out of. Not the original lightsaber, not the original like process to no. The original like piece of product that was one piece of a lightsaber. They will make the whole thing, right? Just to get as close to screen accuracy as possible. And they'll make it to a degree that's better than what is put on screen today. And I think that it becomes a challenge when you're a cosplayer, because it is such an intimidating factor to take that plunge and to apply to these groups and to try to join these groups and try to like partake in what they do, because the bar that cosplayers expect of what you can do with your costume is so much higher than the bar is that filmmakers expect for their costume. At least that's my experience. And I feel like it gets more harsh when you go one of the two extremes. So if you go to the extreme of an extremely recognizable character, they will nitpick the ever-living hell. And if you go to the extreme of a custom character, they will nitpick a lot depending on the group if they allow it, just because they want to make sure it looks in universe, whatever that means. When I applied, I had my costume got bounced back. My generic Sith got bounced back once because I didn't have a lightsaber clip. Like, I had to send in a picture of a Covertech knob and a Covertech clip. To which my response was, I wasn't aware that Kylo Ren had a Covertech lightsaber. I wasn't aware that all Sith needed the Jedi manufactured Covertech clip made by the enemy in order to qualify for their Sith. But like it's a thing where I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm not gonna try. I'm trying not to get too spicy because again, I'm in these groups. But and we'll get to the good that they do, why I joined, and the good they do later. We'll get there in like a solid 2 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. I guess reinforcing what you all have said. That's my impression of like what people think of the groups, and what their reputation has become, while making Star Wars cosplays.
Yeah, when it gets down to it, honestly, like every time I think about them or think about joining them, I just think of like intimidation, and just because they're an official group, they're Lucasfilm approved, like they have an approval process that you have to match like criteria. Whereas when you're cosplaying by yourself, like we have our self-imposed criteria, but at the end of the day, like no one's grading you on it. Like if you're just wearing your cosplay at Comic-Con, it's not like, I mean, there might be people like judging you or whatever, but like if you're not like in the competition or anything, then like it really doesn't matters. And it's and honestly, like even I've heard like from people who have failed to get approved that like they took away from that experience like what they need to improve on the costume to get approved the next time. So like it never hurts to try, but like I always think about joining them eventually, and just like, am I ever going to have the skill to do that? So yeah, they are very intimidating.
We got to get you into the Saber Guild just so that we have people who can help us out with our hair and makeup before
Yeah.
Comic-Con, because we are working right now at the local temple. We are working with what we got, but boy, would it be helpful to have somebody backstage who goes, no, hold on, your scar makeup smudged. Like
that is literally because as a makeup artist, I'm nitpicking my own makeup, and like for the fan film, whenever I noticed like a tiny piece of like paint had scuffed off, like even if it's not going to show up in the next shot, I'm just like, no, it needs to be perfect always at all times. And then I go and watch what Disney actually produces, and I realize, I don't need to be as good as I think I need to be.
Yeah, they don't care. There's a suspicion I have that some of the people who are doing like costume design at Lucasfilm, if they do a recognizable thing, will sometimes just change it ever so slightly to fuck with costumers. Because like if you think about it, Rogue One stormtroopers did not need to look different than A New Hope stormtroopers.
No, they didn't.
There were a few things that honestly I will agree with them on. Like they separated out like some of the back and side plates in order to make it easier for the troopers to run, which that makes sense. But like they would also like change like these tiny little nitpicky things on like the helmet, where it's like I get the feeling that whoever's making the costume, like they have archival materials that they can use to make those costumes where they have old armor. If I was making that costume, I'd be like, okay, I could do it exactly the same. Or but yeah.
Like how many helmets does Vader have? Too many to count. There's so many different variations. Like Mando too. In some shots, like I've noticed it, the visor is wider, and I can tell, oh, that's Pedro in there. Or oh, that's oh my god, I forgot his name. But yeah, like you can tell who's in the armor.
That is so funny to me that you can tell the difference, because I can't. Like I didn't even notice that there was a difference at all.
You really want to torture yourself? Look at the Wanawanga lightsaber guides.
Okay.
Vader's lightsabers. I swear to the gods, every time I look at that dude, I think he's wearing a different fucking lightsaber. Like they're all different. Like they'll have the slightest different thing. Like there's a few where they just repainted like another flash gun in order to kind of have the same color scheme because they accidentally like lost access to something at one point. Like it's just hilarious. And there's like 5 different versions of the Skywalker lightsaber.
Yeah.
Not even like different versions as in like, oh, it's changed over time. No, same damn movie, different versions. And this is not even covering the holiday special. Which has its own variants because they did not have access to the original props. Oh yeah, it's great. It's so great. And I mean now you get even more complications because you get Here's the thing. I'm gonna piss off some fan children here. Disney is great, and we love Disney. And all of you people that keep complaining about how they ruined your childhood need to get out of your basement. For those who are outside of their basement and touch some grass. If that grass happens to be a Disneyland, there's a whole canonically in-universe part of Disneyland now. I don't know if you've been. It's called Galaxy's Edge. I know, this little indie park. But so the watching Liam die silently is my favorite thing of these episodes. But like, you now have canon characters that vary by the day based on whatever that cast member fucking feels like putting on. That these groups haven't yet addressed, but are going to have to do pretty soon, especially because we are all dying inside and crying. But the Halcyon will be closing up shop because it turns out it's very expensive to run, and they're not making a huge bucket of money because the Galactic Starcruiser was so expensive to run, right? Well, that raises the quandary of all of the costumes that were used on that Starcruiser, because canonically, they all exist. They're real. They're real people in Star Wars. So, like, these costume groups, not only are they being messed with by Lucasfilm itself, that puts out a different stormtrooper every time they do a different cut in a movie, but you now have live character performers who are creating their own Star Wars variant costumes on these performances and in these theme parks, which I imagine will cause quite a bit of trouble when they try to like classify them and create CRLs for them. CRLs are the guidelines, by the way, for those who like don't know what the hell Star Wars cosplay groups are. They're the specific guidelines. I think Miguel mentioned them earlier, where you have to look through them and they go in detail. This is exactly what your character has to have to be counted to get approved. Some of them are very easy. Generic characters are where I would start if you were trying to join a group, like Imperial Officer for the 501st. It's like a tunic and pants, or a jumpsuit character. There's like maintenance guys that are just wearing like a coverall jumpsuit. There's no generic Mando Merc. Just make a Mandalorian. And then like for Saber Guild, Dark Empire, all of those, it's generic Sith and Jedi, right? Those are the easiest because they're very plain and simple. But when you get into things like live performance, now these poor Disney groups and these poor Lucasfilm affiliated groups, they're gonna have to do what us theater kids have done for years, which is try to interpret varying costumes from different days of performances. Because damn it, in the latest performance of Next to Normal, Gabe forgot to wear the right T-shirt in the right scene. So I don't know. I think they have some fun on their hands in front of them. I don't even know what I was talking about. That went on a weird tangent.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Do we want to kind of cover? I have been talking a lot, but I do want to ask if we want to cover how to get into a group and what the process looks like.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial to go over, since we've
Mig-
been talking about the groups so much anyway.
yeah, they're just gonna have to deal with a solid chunk of my stupid voice for 20 minutes. Miguel, you got any thoughts? You've looked at these groups before.
Yeah, I think we kind of covered how to join. You just have to go through the guidelines thoroughly, every line of every little detail, if you're joining the 501st at least, and make sure you have those and then submit photos. You go like in a circle and then like different angles. Like it's pretty simple. And then you submit that with like a form, and then you just wait to see if you submit it, if you're accepted or not. That's as far as I know. I still need to actually do it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that's the basic process. I mean, that's like step one. So like step one, well, step one and two. Step one is you make your costume. Step two is you talk to the groups by sending a form. Saber Guild didn't have a form for me. I had to go through the local temple because they're one of the smallest groups, so they don't have a lot of that back end that some of the groups have. Because again, what's my Saber Guild number? Let me find out. Hold on, I have my number. There's less than 1,100 Saber Guild people on Earth, I think, and when you compare that to the tens of thousands of 501st, it's a whole a whole different world. Let me see, costume chat. Yeah, I mean, I'm 1098 and I'm relatively new, so there's not a huge amount. So you submit your costume. I will say that if you are interested in one of these groups, I don't know when I became the PR rep for these groups, but hi, how's it going? Apparently, I have this unspoken job now. If you're interested in one of these groups, reach out to your local garrison, temple, base, spire, whatever the name is for that group that is you are going to be a part of. Because when I joined Saber Guild, I actually started my journey without anything, with no costume. And I just went to practices. Saber Guild is different in that they actually have physical practices because they do fight choreography. But I went to practices and I just talked to the head of the temple. I talked to the I don't remember the exact acronym, but there's a costuming like officer at each of these groups. I think it's LCCs, but I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. And I said, look, I just want to get in. What's the baseline? And they helped me out. They walked me through. They found me materials and supplies. I'm not gonna lie. I think part of my costume came from Galaxy's Edge because I needed a base. They sold a base. And so you talk to them. They help you get materials. They also will have things called armor parties. Um, they are born out of the 501st. So when everyone was making armor, but a lot of the groups have the same like membership because people have multiple costumes. So you get a bunch of different groups that are all sitting down working on their costumes together to try and figure something out, or to get it done. My temple also helped me submit my pictures, and they even took the pictures for me. It was with an iPhone, I think, just some basic photos. But when you submit your costume, you will typically get a response back. It will be a yes or a no, and if it's a no, there will be a why. And it's almost never. I've never heard of someone getting a permanent no. It's typically like a hey, we received your costume, work on these. Some of those can be very simple. I'm on the simple end. I needed a lightsaber clip, and I forgot to send them a picture of my lightsaber. Turns out when you costume a Sith Lord, you need a lightsaber. Who would have thought that? But so, like, for me, it was simpler. We've had some folks in the temple who've been bounced back multiple times because they wanted to see different things. Really depends on the different group, what kind of stuff they're looking to add. I know that we have somebody right now who's working on a custom Jedi who has gotten multiple bounce backs because they want detailed pictures of something, or they're not quite sure they like how it sits on the body, which is where you get into the side tangent to the tangent. One thing that I want to put out there to cosplayers too is that all body types are welcoming cosplay. How something sits on your body, right? And what kind of body structure you have should not be something you should worry about when making a costume. Whether you're large, small, tall, short, does not matter. Doesn't matter what your background is. Doesn't matter if you have, if you're able or disabled. It doesn't matter any of the demographic groups, right? Just go out and make something. Because ultimately, a lot of the times with these cosplay groups, it's never. I have never seen somebody get rejected ever because you don't look like the character. I think if a costume group tried to do that, the other groups would show up at that judge's door and bodily beat them. That's not something we necessarily stand for. Most of the time, when things get bounced back, it is not a body issue. It's a tailoring question. So, like, how does this sit on your body? Like, can you adjust this piece so that it works more with you to create this look, right? Those would be the type of comments you get. So don't let that necessarily scare you into thinking, I don't look like this character, therefore I can't join. That's not what they're worried about. They're more worried about, okay, is your tabard coming across the body? Is it, it's kind of sagging a little bit. Can you tighten like something on the tabard? Just figure out how to make it so that it just comes across. We don't care how it comes across. You work it with your body, tailor it to how you need to tailor it, comes across. You'll get your notes. And from there, it becomes a back and forth. So you submit, you get some notes back, you submit again, get some notes back, and it'll keep going like that until you gain an approval, at which point you'll be led into your local group, and you'll have to fit certain requirements in order to maintain your membership per year. So you got to fill out the census form, which lets people know that you haven't died. And then you have to do a certain amount of troops or performances depending on your group. Saber Guild requires 1 performance. I think Dark Empire, last I heard, requires 1 troop, which means I need to do a troop at some point before Comic-Con. But so like that's the baseline of joining is you create the costume. They can help you make the costume depending on how involved your local group is, and most of them are very involved. And then submit feedback, approval. Typically is how it goes.
Good
Very
job. Very,
thorough
very precise
process.
explanation. maybe I'll actually be able to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the scariest thing is taking the plunge.
It really is, yeah.
That's the scariest thing, and then the most aggravating thing is the feedback.
Yeah.
Like that's the moment where you're like, I swear to God, I don't want to have to fix another damn thing. But the scariest thing is jumping in.
Speaking of jumping, Liam, do you want to go over some of the fan film costumes, like your process, how you've applied your skills into making them and things that you've learned from them?
What skills?
I mean, you could also get spicy with it and be like, I hated everything.
I didn't hate everything. There were moments when I'm gonna be so honest. There was one point during this entire process where I could seriously consider just withdrawing from the project because it was just getting so stressful and time consuming, and like it was very difficult, but I'm glad I powered through and we got it done. But I I definitely learned a lot. I had to teach myself how to use a sewing machine to do this. I hadn't used a sewing machine like in years before telling everyone, oh yeah, I can use a sewing machine and make all these costumes. Totally, yeah. I did say that with the confidence of being able to learn how, but I did go into this having like very, very minimal experience with the machine. But the sewing machines are pretty simple, I think, especially if what you're doing isn't super complicated, which the costumes that I made for this fan film weren't really that complicated. Tylia's was the easiest to make. The like dark fuchsia dress, for those who have seen the trailer. That, and also actually that was the one I had the most fun making because
Because it didn't make you regret your existence.
Yes, exactly. It was the easiest. It was the most fun. I loved sewing the trim onto the edge of the dress. I don't know why that was so like satisfying. I guess my neurodivergent brain was like, yes, lining up things parallel to each other and making them stay that way.
That's like the cosplay equivalent of like the people who break ice blocks for their male audience on TikTok. Like I understand.
Yes, it's exactly that. Thank you for putting that to words. Exactly like that. You just described like everything that was good about making these costumes. The one I hated making the most was yours, Shane, the Temple Guard costume.
Oh, we know it.
It was difficult. I was working with leather. I had never worked with leather before, and I wasn't doing it properly either. I wasn't using like actual leather working tools. I was just using my sewing machine in the thinnest like vinyl leather that I could find, and that costume was the reason we had to delay our second shoot because I could not get it to do what I wanted. And it was about 1 a.m. when I texted our director, Brian, saying, hey, this costume will not be done today.
Yeah, so about that.
Yeah, we need to push to next week. And I felt very bad about that. But, you know, it is what it is. If the costume isn't done, we can't do the shoot. So
to be fair, it was a character that is known for having a pain in the ass of a costume.
Yeah. So that it was overall, it was just a very stressful process because I had, how many costumes did I had to make? I had to make 6 because the only one I didn't make was the Stormtrooper armor because Miguel made that.
We appreciate you, Miguel.
I remember we were in a kickoff and then Shane, you approached me and you're like, by the way, we're making the film, so you're gonna be in it regardless. Like you don't have a choice.
You were voluntold.
Hey Miguel, we had a meeting and we cast you as the stormtrooper in our film.
Yeah, let's be clear. There was a casting meeting.
We had auditions. You got the part, so
Yeah, one of one.
one of one. Yeah, yeah,
My favorite auditions.
for real.
What
Actu-
happened to the costumes? Are you like, I know like you could adjust maybe the Imperial outfit to like fit you.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just about to start talking about the Imperial officer outfit. I really enjoyed making that. I actually did go on to some of the I did go onto the 501st forums to like look at what other people have like the patterns that some people use to make their Imperial officer costumes. A very common one was this there's this brand that makes patterns called the Calls. They make like specific costume patterns, and they have this one that's like some military uniform, like Revolutionary era military uniform. I forget exactly which era, but it's like an old style of military uniform that a lot of people just edited to uh, make it look like a Star Wars Imperial officer uniform. So that's what I did, and I could so the one that I made for Rowan is a little bit big on me because I was doing it by his custom measurements, but yeah, I still have the pattern. I absolutely plan on using it again to make the costume for myself because I want to cosplay Eli. I also want to cosplay Thrawn, so I will get a lot of use out of that pattern. That's also a good something good that came out of making these costumes was that I bought a bunch of patterns for all of them, and I plan on using them again. I still have a whole bunch of extra fabric from making these costumes because I overbuy my fabric. That's a tip for cosplayers out there who are making their costumes. Buy more fabric than you think you need.
Buy more of everything than you
More of
think you
everything.
need.
Because
I have gone through 3 boots in 2 performances in Saber Guild. Buy more of everything than you think you need.
you will make mistakes, and B, you will have extra fabric after to use in future projects. So even like it's it's expensive in the beginning to start making your cosplays, but as you acquire more materials, you get to a point where you want to make a specific cosplay and you realize, oh, I actually have most of the materials to use this. For example, I have a whole bunch of fabric that I'm going to use to make a Jason Sedula cosplay because I have all this extra brown fabric from costumes I made for the film, and I'm going to use it to make his vest. So that's about like $25 I'm probably saving on materials there already, and I'm probably saving even more because I have like a whole bunch of stuff stored in my parents' shed that I've kind of forgotten about because I don't take inventory of my stuff. But wow, I really went on a tangent there talking about the fan film costumes, but it was a very fun experience despite wanting to die sometimes, but definitely learned a lot. And like I said, you learn what you need to learn for your specific project, and then you'll have those skills for the next project you want to do. So very, very fulfilling experience.
I'll have to hit you up sometime for those patterns for those Imperials because for me, generic costumes are always on my to-do list because I'm more on performance side, and you never know when something's gonna come up where you need like a generic character to either appear on stage or to serve as a handler. So Miguel can probably speak to this. You can't see shit in armor, and you generally want somebody there who's going to make sure the 3-year-olds don't get underfoot. And so that's where generic characters come into play because no, you're not going to get all the people who go, "Oh my god, it's Darth Vader," but you will be able to keep those people away from pressing all of Darth Vader's chest buttons. And so they're important.
Is that a specific example pulled from experience? Have you seen that happen before?
Of course not. Definitely not. Of course not. um, I hear it's worst for the R2 builders because a lot of R2 units that are built are not necessarily like they're not going to fall apart if you sneeze on them. Like they're not fucking 3 little pigs level of I huff and I puff and the droid goes on down, but like they're not exactly what I would consider Warzone ready. And
No.
so taking them to to a con, right? Or to any cosplay event, a lot of these are held downtown There's a lot of bars downtown.
Yeah.
Means there's a lot of idiots that go, it's R2D2, and they try to sit on it. And there goes your beautifully crafted R2D2 dome. Those are great moments where you really want somebody who's generic in a costume, like say an Imperial officer, to be like, excuse me, you need to back up, and keep those people from, destroying the hard work of all the people who cannot see or have delicate costumes or just straight up tripping a dude. Like, I don't know. Nothing's more painful than watching a stormtrooper or an armored character fall.
Yeah, I definitely
Speak
want
to
to
that
avoid
experience,
that.
Miguel.
Luckily, no, I've never fallen.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Actually, now I'm gonna fall.
I
No,
mean, you
but
could say it's technically happened. We did drop you in the fan film, just extremely gently.
Yeah, we did do that.
was it gentle though? I feel like I did.
He's
like,
like,
not?
excuse me, I resemble that that comment.
And I think I remember dropping myself down.
Hey, the stunt coordinators are watching. It was done safely.
The group effort.
Just jokes. But like you mentioned about like little kids running around, like when I'm in my armor, like I interact with kids a lot because they're like, it's a stormtrooper or it's Mando. And I remember one time in the fan film, there was like a family of like with 3 kids, and like the boy just kept looking at me, and like I interacted with him, and it was cool. But since I couldn't see much, I had to look like down. Like it's not like looking at normally like eye level. No, I had to actually tilt my helmet down, like I was looking down, and I feel like I was very intimidating.
You
As a
just
smart
lay.
person, I can imagine what that looks like.
Yeah, you lay miserable to kid. Just look down, look down. Don't look him in the eye.
Exactly. Better behave.
Oh man, he's entering his old musicals about a failed French Revolution era.
Actually, I literally have it right here.
That's right. We
What the
stand
fuck?
Hugo. We stand Hugo's just egregiously long literary masterpieces. It blew my mind when I found out the Hunchback of Notre Dame was a Hugo work, and then I saw how long it was, and I'm like, no, yeah, that makes sense.
That checks out.
Yeah, that it's an old code, but I was about to clear it.
Hold it off, sir. That won't be necessary.
Our armor is something that I don't know if I want to explore outside of. I too want to join the mercs. If you have not guessed it, audience, it seems like mercs are the cool kids that everyone wants to join, because they let you get creative with it. But outside of the mercs, I don't know if I want to explore the armor world. I have some helmets over there, and I don't know, man. Like for the fan film, my character wears a helmet, and here's the thing: if you're cosplaying or you are performing, this is my pro tip for armored characters or mobility or visually impaired characters. Like if you're doing a C3PO, you're doing a stormtrooper, you're doing a temple guard, you want to practice movement in that attire well before the con. When we did the fan film, my character wears a helmet. It's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer. He wears a helmet for some of the scenes. When we rehearsed those scenes with the stunt and fight crew, we rehearsed them blindfolded because my vision was so poor inside that attire that I don't know if we have behind the scenes footage of it, but when we filmed all the scenes where he was helmeted, there were 3 people on set who their entire job was to just make sure that my dumbass didn't trip and fall while wearing a visually impaired thing. Because there's no visibility in that helmet. Like you get these little slits that are kind of open, but we put a mesh behind them so you didn't see my eyes. And I wear glasses. Couldn't wear those; they didn't fit. Like it was just nothing. There was like a thin line of bright kind of ish blobs. So if you have a character like that, like an armored character or a mobility impaired character, I'll throw in there as well. A lot of the droids have, like if you cosplay a droid, they have very impaired elbows and knee joints. You want to practice moving in that thing before you actually show up to anything with other people. And if you can practice it with your group that you're going with, if you're joining one of the cosplay clubs, if your local temple, spire, base, outpost, whatever it is that you have around you can practice with you, um, it's hugely beneficial because you think you've got it, you think you're good, and then suddenly 7 people walk up to you, and you are no longer good because you did not practice for that. So get a lot of practice moving in your attire when you cosplay, just in general too. Like I've seen some Victorian style cosplays that are rough to move in. Always practice your mobility, especially before a con. You don't want to show up to Comic Con and realize you can't do stairs.
Yeah, when I attended Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, I was debating whether or not to bring my Stormtrooper armor because I hadn't finished the Mando yet, and I decided against it. So I ended up not cosplaying because I wanted to go to a lot of panels and enjoy a lot of things, and I was like, I will not be able to do that in Stormtrooper armor. So I did have to sacrifice that aspect of conning, but it was worth it. I didn't overheat or anything. But yeah, we have to consider that mobility aspect of it.
This man desperately wanted the ability to sit down.
Yes, exactly.
I
There's a
cosplayed I cosplayed Ahsoka at that con, which is significantly easier to do than a stormtrooper, or at least easier to move around in. But like, I still was like, God, I wish I could just take this costume off right now.
Yep.
Yep.
That's a canon event in cosplaying.
Absolutely, yeah.
That it seems like it wouldn't, but like 3/4 of the way through the day while I was wearing Ken, that was me because I decided to do like 1980s styling. And the nice thing about like some characters is like we mentioned this with literary, but also like Ken is a doll line, which means that there's a crap ton of options. You can kind of just combine whatever you have in your closet that's Barbie core, and it'll probably be canon to some doll that came out. So I was going after 1980s Ken. I had a very dense sweater that I was wearing around my shoulders, like preppy style. Oh man, like I think I would have died if I actually wore it. But like even not wearing it, just having it around the shoulders was so fucking warm all the time because it was incredibly thick. And there were 20,000 people in the same room as me. Like that's what I would consider like baby steps into regretting your life of cosplaying, and it still felt awful.
Yeah. There are some of us who are willing to do more, and then there's some of us who either won't even like go there, or I've like dabbled in some of these more difficult cosplays, and like honestly, I'm just like some of the armored cosplays I want to do, I'm considering like, why, do I even really want to do this? Because I'm not gonna want to wear it at a con. Honestly, I just want to make stuff. There's a lot of stuff I just don't want to wear.
Yeah, like I mentioned Lore Olympus earlier. The one on my list from Lore Olympus is like Angry Hades, where he gets all dark colored and you see all his scars like in his scaration, and he's got star patterns on him and he's wearing a suit. But one of the biggest holdouts for me is, do I really want to go to a con and wear a fucking suit and body paint with detailing? That itself, like I think about that and I'm like, I think I would die of heat stroke. Like at a con, especially the summer cons. Like if it's a winter con, fine. A summer con, no. That seems like, and there were people who like they dressed up as full Persephones at Comic Con. And I was like, you, madame, have the highest respect from me for being able to wear that much body paint and that many layers with some of the, like her fancier outfits and like not be dead in the Comic Con hallways right now.
I went to D23 as Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, and oh my god, that because I painted my face and I wore a blue bodysuit because I don't like wearing body paint. But honestly, I should have just gone with the paint because that suit was so hot, and I was wearing a wig that I made out of yarn, so that was really warm. And when was this con? This con was in like September of last year, so really freaking hot.
I went to it's not a con, but I have to own up. At one point I was in a relationship with a Disney adult. I know. It's It's tough to own up to, but it did happen.
The first step in healing, Shane.
First step in healing. Hi, my name is Shane. I've been no longer a Disney adult since, so we decided to do Dapper Day, which for me was perfect because I honestly prefer bounding over full cosplaying. So if they told me to go to Mickey's Halloween time, I would have told them what time they could stick it up. But like for for Dapper Day, it's all Disney bounding. It's an era that I loved to dress up in at the time. I really liked 1940s apparel, and that was kind of the vibe that we were going for. We wanted to go swing era, big band. Which yes, before any of you wonder, it is unfortunate. I did have to wear a fedora. I know, it makes me seem like a neckbeard, but it turns out when you wear 40s clothes with it, it doesn't give quite as much of the "I belong to suspicious internet communities" energy that the fedora usually gives. But so we went and we did a couples bound, and we bounded Marlin and Dory from Finding Nemo. And which I love the Pixar films. I was thrilled. I had the orange. I wore bright orange pants as slacks, and then had the orange bow tie and a white shirt and some orange suspenders and a black hat to kind of really give the Marlin look. But of course, I was a straight guy on Dapper Day, so no one said anything about my attire. Everyone talked about the person I was with, even though it was just a dress. But anyways, they decided to hi, welcome to Triton Squadron, where Shane gets unhinged. But so the other person with me, the person I had couple bounded with, decided to wear like full arm length satin gloves, which looked marvelous. Like the outfit was on point. But they passed out a heat stroke in Tarzan's treehouse 2/3 of the way through the day.
No, oh my gosh.
No way.
Yeah. I had to suddenly play paramedic because fun fact, Shane has first aid like knowledge.
Thank
But
God you did. Like,
no, yeah, because we had a third friend who was there to hang out with us and kind of play third wheel. We love the third wheel in the group. They're the true hero of the friend group. But they're the ones who get all the pictures. They were bounding Cruella de Vil, another phenomenal outfit. But we had to send them down to get a crap ton of water, and we had to do the whole getting the forehead wet, and they had to take off the gloves and all that, and had to sit them down, and they weren't super far gone to the point that we had to call for medical attention. Like we were able to we caught it early enough that they had just passed out, and we were like, okay, we can deal with this. They're not fully out yet. If you do have something like that happen at a con, please call for medical support. Most people think they know about first aid, but don't. But so yeah, that was a moment where that person had not tried the outfit on beforehand. They winged it. And the price they paid is they passed the fuck out at Tarzan's treehouse. We went and saw Tarzan and Jade. Yeah, we went and saw Tarzan and Jade being cute. They walked outside and down she went. But you don't want that scenario. You always want to test it, and it's the thing that you never think will cause you to pass out. I find that half the time people think, "Oh, I'm not wearing a full Praetorian guard. I'll be fine. I'm not a royal guard. I'll be fine." Those people are crazy. I'm not Palpatine. No, I'll be fine. I'm not wearing huge layers and all that. But just the full all the way up to mid bicep gloves were enough. Where it was a hot day, it was a very hot day, it was an abnormally hot day for the season. That was enough that person was gone. So, be cautious about it and test out your stuff beforehand. Miguel, do you have an N1 Starfighter?
Oh yeah,
playing with right now?
Yes.
I'm dying.
It's just this tiny little thing that's on a stiff. What even is that that's holding it? It's just this
a wire.
Like a wire.
Yeah, it's a wire that I had it in my car and I took it off because it was melting. And
I'm sitting here talking about a person who just straight up passed out, and this man is flying around a little N1 Starfighter around his face in his room. That's the Triton Squadron way. this is the way.
Precisely.
Well, I think we can start wrapping up this episode. We've been talking for a couple of hours now, but listeners, I hope you enjoyed this slash hopefully learned something. Maybe I don't know if there was much to gain from the rants and tangents that we went on, but
Is there ever anything to gain when I'm on this podcast?
for real. But I hope it was at least entertaining for everyone who still tunes into this podcast.
And hey, if you were listening, like being actually genuine here, so I swear to God, if you laugh, Liam, like the gods will know. Like genuinely, for those who actually sat through this absolutely unhinged ranting and raving, particularly that probably came out of my mouth, but like the biggest thing I hope you take from this is that like the biggest fear that everyone I've seen has from cosplay, and this is my biggest fear that I have to work through, is the fear of trying, like the fear of going out and leaping and doing it. And so if you're thinking of doing a cosplay, but you're worried about being able to do it well, screen accuracy, looking stupid, money, even, like if you're worried about these things, just take the plunge, because you could find a cosplay that works in your budget, that you feel comfortable in, that even if it's not screen accurate or perfect, it's still something that you can enjoy and be fun. And if nothing else, it's a first step into a larger world that you can take and you can join in this marvelous community.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
That's my Independence Day speech. That's the speech I'll give at every single con from here on out. You know, like the old 1990s Roland Emmerich movie about the aliens that invade Earth, and the president for some reason decides to get into a fighter plane to fight them because, I don't know, edginess. Will Smith was in it. He punched an alien.
It's a guilty pleasure movie, okay?
I love that movie. That's my Independence Day speech. You know, this is our cosplay day. Yeah. Go out and try things. Do them.
Absolutely. Any parting words, Miguel?
Could not agree more. Yeah, that basically said it. Like, I said it before, it's a leap of faith. That's all it is. I started out with just a mishmash of random articles of clothing to resemble the 10th Doctor, and I won a contest. So it doesn't take too much effort. Like, it's just fun. Just have fun with it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Shane, Miguel, thank you for joining me. And this is Triton Squadron signing off.